Hello team, welcome back to V Project UK. We don't want to mention the C word too early, but with Christmas around the corner, we thought now would be a great time to do a review of the Cordless ShineMate EB351-515 polisher. Just in case people are thinking of treating themselves to a polisher this Christmas, we thought now would be a great time to do a review of this polisher, giving you some honest feedback. So, without wasting too much time, let's start the video. Now, the first thing we're going to mention is that if you're new to detailing and you're doing some research on machine polishers, in this video we're not going to go into too much detail about machine polishers themselves, what dual action machines are versus rotary machines. If you want to know the basics, then have a look at the video in the link in the corner where we actually do a review of the DAS6 Pro Plus, where we show that detailing doesn't have to be expensive and you can get professional results using something like this. This machine in the UK at the time of making this video retails at somewhere between 150 and 200 pounds, so 200 to 260 dollars roughly, and it shows that detailing doesn't have to be expensive. But if you're new to detailing and researching about machine polishers, check that video out for the basics. So the next obvious thing to discuss is corded versus cordless. And before we talk about the ShineMate, we just wanted to mention that if you're in any doubt as to whether a rubber cord causes imperfections on your paint when you're actually machine polishing, categorically we will tell you now that it does. It's unbelievable to think because it's just a bit of rubber. However, when it rubs on the paint, it does actually cause imperfections. And if you do any sort of detailing, you will know that when you go cordless, it just makes it so much easier to use the machines you're using. It makes it much more agile. You don't have a cord tugging at you. You don't have something else to worry about. And machine polishers are going in that direction. They're no different in that when you go cordless, they'll be much more maneuverable and user-friendly to use. However, will you get the same performance from a cordless machine as you will from a corded, which is what we'll discuss when we talk about the ShineMate EB351. So one more final point before we talk about the EB351. When it comes to cordless machines, if you've not seen our review of the Flex, this is the PXE80 10.8 EC. Make sure you check out that video, again link in the corner above, to show that how awesome machine polishers which are cordless can be. And this video will hopefully demonstrate how highly we regard this cordless polisher. So check that out. Okay, so now we've got all that out of the way, let's dive straight into it. Before I talk about the user experience of this polisher, I'm just going to talk about the specifications and we'll get that out of the way first. So the first thing I'll mention is that when you get this polisher out of the box, you will notice just how sturdy and solid and high quality it feels. All the contact points where you might put your hand are all soft rubber and it actually feels quite soft touch to the use. There's no rattles, there's no shakes, and everything fits perfectly. And in fact, all of the metal components are actually CNC machine polished, so they are really high quality. And the whole machine just feels super high quality as soon as you get it out of the box. So that's the first thing that I will mention. So in terms of the specification, the polisher itself has a brushless motor. Now that is really good because it gives you high torque. It's actually really efficient in terms of the power the motor will send to the actual backing plate itself. And it actually gives you a smoother operation, which is quite evident when you use the polisher for the first time. It's also got dual speed. So what that means is there's two functions for the speed. The first one, as usual, is that you've got the toggle wheel on the top of the machine, which is located in a really easy place to actually use. Even when you're actually using the polisher, it's easily accessible, so you can change the speed on the fly. And it goes from number 1 all the way up to number 6. And that will give you between 2000 and 5,000 OPMs, oscillations per minute. The second part of the dual speed function is the actual trigger, because if you press the trigger lightly, it will give you a slower speed as if you press it fully, and it's progressive. So I'll demonstrate that now. So that is the second portion of the dual speed. And that is actually really good, because when you're actually polishing a surface of your vehicle, you can adjust the speed purely by using the trigger itself. Now the trigger also has a digital control startup, which means you actually get a lot less fling, and it actually starts the motor up quite slowly, building up the speed, which again extends the motor life. So again, that's another great feature of this polisher. So the ShineMate also has vibration inhibition technology, which means that everything that's assembled in this polisher is designed to fit super perfectly. It's really highly CNC machine polished, which means that there's no rattling and no shaking, and it's a really smooth polisher to use. The backing plate is what ShineMate call the Dust Devil backing plate. So as you can see, there's loads of holes in the backing plate, which will aid in two things. First thing it will do is it will aid in heat dissipation. A lot of the heat will actually go through those holes and away from the surface you're actually polishing. And the second thing it will do is it will actually work to extract any dust you might have from your polishes on your pad. So that is a great feature again. Now, in terms of the batteries, you get two 5-amp batteries, and the batteries themselves are super high quality because they actually have Samsung cores inside them, and they are very high spec. ShineMate say that you can actually charge and discharge the batteries up to 500 times, which should last you absolutely ages. Each battery will last you between 45 and 60 minutes runtime, and they take about 45 to 60 minutes to charge, which means that as soon as they discharge, you can put it into the charger, and the amount of time you're using the second battery, which I've currently got on the polisher at the moment, you will never be out of power. However, one thing we would mention is that if you do run out of power, maybe for that 5, 10, 15 minute period while the batteries are charging, that's not a bad thing, because not only does it give the chance for the machine to cool down a bit and the motor to cool down, but it gives you a chance to sort of cool down, have a cup of tea and just recharge as well. The batteries also have a power indicator on them. So as you can see, when you push the button, you can see how much charge each battery has. And again, you can check that whilst you're actually polishing to see how much power you have left and whether the battery needs charging. So yet another great feature. So in the box, as well as the two batteries, which you'll get inside the box itself, both 5-amp, you will also get the actual dual port charger. Now, we're going to demonstrate how this charger works when you actually put a battery inside shortly. But for now, you can see that there's one LED which will be your overheat function. So if the batteries are getting too hot during charging, or they're too hot when you put them in the charger, that light will flash to show that they're overheated, and they'll wait for them to cool down before it'll actually charge. So this is a very smart charger. The second LED will blink green when it's actually charging the battery, and go solid green when the battery is actually charged. And on top of that, the actual charger has air-cooled technology. So when you plug it in and start it, again, as I mentioned, we'll demonstrate that shortly, it will actually cool the battery as it's charging, further prolonging the life of those batteries. And you've got two ports, so you can charge one battery while you're using one, or you could be charging both batteries at the same time. So again, a great charger for your batteries. So here's a demonstration of the actual charger in use. So as usual, you'll get a mains cable, which on the end of it will have your figure-of-8 power cord, and that will simply plug in to the back of the actual smart charger itself. And once you plug it in, it will actually go through a startup procedure. So once you get to this stage, i.e. the two green lights are now solid, the charger is saying it's gone through its startup cycle and it's ready to begin charging. And what you can do is literally just slide your batteries into the actual charger itself. Again, really solid fit, high quality. And the actual charger will start flashing green to show that the batteries are now charging. And as it's dual port, again, these batteries fit in super solid. You can actually charge both batteries at the same time. Now you can actually hear the fan whirring, which is showing that it's actually cooling the batteries as it's charging them. And when they finish charging, similar to it showed at the beginning, these green lights will just stay solid, which shows that the batteries are fully charged. Now, in terms of the charger itself, it weighs about 1.98 kilograms, or just under 2 kilograms basically. So it's sort of on the heavier side when it comes to machine polishers. The one thing we found, and we will demonstrate this polisher in use very shortly, the one thing we found with this polisher as opposed to a corded polisher is basically the weight distribution. So in most corded polishers like the DAS6 Pro Plus, you'll find that most of the weight is towards the actual backing plate end of the machine. Whereas because this cordless polisher has quite big batteries, and as you can see, the batteries, the ShineMate have really thought about this. The battery isn't mounted vertically, it's mounted horizontally, so you've got less chance of knocking the battery on the surface that you're polishing, which is a great feature. However, because there is a battery there, you'll find that the weight is now not only located in one end, but actually at both ends. And when you're actually using the polisher, that comes into play, because what you'll find is that you're now trying to balance the machine, even though it is quite a balanced machine. And what ShineMate have done quite cleverly, this is a bit of an Easter egg on this machine, that this line that you can see here actually shows roughly the midpoint of the balance of the machine. So if I put my finger, it should be, hopefully I won't drop it, you can see that it is quite balanced in where the weight of the machine actually is. It's both at the front and the back. And that comes into play because you'd think that it'll be a good thing because it's quite balanced. However, you are now trying to balance the machine at both ends, which is one thing we found with this machine. Because even though the batteries aren't super heavy, they are quite heavy, and that weight is now at that end as well. So talking of the battery, I just wanted to show you the battery actually going in. So you've actually got some venting on the actual polisher itself there, so that when the machine is in use, the battery is actually cooling itself by circulating the air through that vent. So they've designed this machine super cleverly in that air will come out here through the battery, through this vent, cooling it as you're using it. But the battery is a super tight fit, and that is really good because it means that the battery does not vibrate when it's actually being used. So that is a great feature that ShineMate have thought about when actually designing this machine. Now, the next thing I'll mention about this machine is that when you turn it on, it just sounds unbelievable. It just sounds like it's a jet engine or a turbine which is about to take off. We've never used a machine polisher which sounds like it, and it actually sounds really cool. I mean, that noise is quite unique and we absolutely love it. It actually makes it quite unique using this machine. So as usual, we've marked off the actual backing plate so we know if the machine is rotating or not. And the next thing to mention in terms of rotation is this point. This polisher, as well as you having to balance the weight, is actually quite long. Because of the addition of the battery, it makes it quite a long machine. And if you've done any machine polishing in the past, what you'll find is that although machines with high torque like this ShineMate has, it's quite hard to actually stall the machine in terms of the oscillations. It is quite easy to stall dual action machine polishers because they don't have a direct drive spindle in terms of the rotation. So although it's quite hard to stop the oscillating, it's fairly easy to stop the rotations or RPMs. Now, because this machine is quite long and you actually get quite a lot of leverage, it's actually quite easy to stall the revs. And you really have to concentrate when you're using this machine. It's an absolutely fantastic machine and gives you absolutely amazing results. And obviously it being cord free is really easy to maneuver and use. However, you will have to concentrate more when using this machine as opposed to something like the DAS6 Pro Plus, because you will find that you're constantly trying to make sure that the machine doesn't stop spinning. Now, having said that, normally with most machine polishers, and if you've done any machine polishing in the past, you will know that it's actually more comfortable to use when you're doing horizontal surfaces. So if you're doing your bonnet or the roof or the boot, something like that is typically quite easy. However, with this machine, because you are fighting the leverage, it's actually easier to use on a vertical plane. So when you're doing the doors or something like that, because now the weight is actually further down. So that's just one thing to bear in mind with this machine, is that it might not be so user-friendly for beginners. However, if you have some experience doing machine polishing, then that's something just to watch out for. Now, the next elephant in the room to talk about is the price. As we mentioned at the start of the video, you can get a DAS6 Pro Plus for around £150 or £200 in the UK. So somewhere around $200 to $250 if you're watching this in the US. This machine, which is the EB351-515, and you can also get the EB351-512, so where this has a 5-inch backing plate and 15mm throw, you can get the same dual action machine, however with a 5-inch backing plate and a 12mm throw. Currently in the UK, this retails at £390. That works out to roughly, at the current exchange rate at the time of making this video, about $524. So whether or not this is an investment which is worth making is really a personal choice. Do you want something that's cordless and gives you the freedom and flexibility without a cord? Or do you want to save half of the money and just get a corded machine which will give you very similar professional results? Something like the DAS6 Pro Plus is so versatile, it gives you professional results without having to outlay so much money. So whether or not this is value for you is a personal choice. However, that cost has to be factored. For us, it was a great choice purchasing this machine because, as mentioned, it gives us the freedom and flexibility to not have a cord. And as experienced machine polishers, we are conscious of the fact that we need to balance the machine to make sure it doesn't stop spinning, which, to be fair, is the same for a lot of dual action polishers out there. So for us, it was a great purchase, especially looking at the build quality of the machine. However, that will be a personal choice for you. So onto a demonstration of the machine itself. As mentioned earlier, when you're actually using the machine, the actual toggle switch is super easy to access. You can actually access it from your thumb. It's in a really good location. And also the trigger actually has a trigger lock. So when you're actually using the machine, you don't have to continually press the trigger because that lock, again, is super easy to access. Again, another great feature from this machine polisher. Now, what we're going to do is just add the pad. This is a Rupes yellow fine pad, which is one of our go-to pads when we're actually machine polishing. And the great thing about this machine polisher is that the 5-inch backing plate is perfect for these pads because they actually have a 5-inch interface, but it actually is a 6-inch pad. So again, absolutely fantastic. Again, as mentioned before, we've actually marked off the backing plate, so keep an eye on that for its rotation, which we'll demonstrate. Now, a detailer's top tip for you is that because this machine is actually weighted at both ends, as we've mentioned at the beginning of the video, sometimes it's actually easier not to hold the polisher here by the trigger, but once you've actually pressed the trigger and locked it, to actually hold it at both ends, and it actually balances the machine a lot better. So what we're going to do for this demonstration is just add some water. And yes, you can machine polish using water. In fact, on some Porsche paints and some soft paints, water with the right pad is actually all you need. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate this polisher in use, and keep an eye for the rotation, because what I'm going to do, as mentioned, it's got such leverage. All I'm going to do is basically balance the machine towards the back, and you'll see how quickly the revs actually stop. So keep an eye out for that, but I'll point out when I'm actually going to do that. So So you could see in that demonstration that just literally by tilting the machine ever so slightly, it actually stopped the rotation of the backing plate. And that is what we're mentioning with this machine, is that it's so long in terms of it's slightly longer than normal dual action polishers, that slight amount of leverage is all it takes for you to stop the backing plate. So when you're using this polisher, you really need to concentrate to make sure that it is still spinning, and this demonstrates that perfectly. Also, just wanted to mention quickly that this was just a demonstration to show you how easy it is to store the backing plate. So we haven't elected to do a panel or anything. I just wanted to show you the polisher in action. In that it is super easy to use, but the one thing you have to watch out for is that stalling of the backing plate. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, make sure you give us that thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, make sure you press that bell icon to get alerts for future videos. Make sure you check us out on Instagram and give us some likes on there as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.